Yes, sorry, you can please be seated now. Here we go. Or we could stand there much longer, but here we go. Welcome back, everybody. I hope they had a great summer. It truly is good to see everybody here. Order. I'll now recognize the Honourable Premier, who will present to the House the newly elected member for Pictou West.
Speaker, I present to you Mr. Marco McLeod, member for the electoral district of Pictou West. He has taken the oath, signed the rolls, and now claims his right to take his seat in this chamber. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let the honourable member take his seat. As you know, we will be conducting election for the new speaker, and I'll now accept nominations for candidates for election as the Speaker of the House of Assembly. I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I nominate the member for Chester St. Margaret's as the Speaker of this House of Assembly.
Does the Honourable member accept the nomination?
I do.
Are there further nominations? I recognize the Honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to nominate the member for Halifax Citadel Sable Island.
Does the Honourable member accept the nomination?
I do.
Seeing further nominations, I recognize the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I nominate the member for Clayton Park West for the election as Speaker of this House of Assembly.
Does the Honourable member accept the nomination?
I do.
Are there any further nominations? I'll now ask the Chief Clerk to conduct a vote for the election of the Speaker, and I was asked members of the gallery to remain seated throughout this process. And perhaps we'll take a small recess while we conduct the vote. We're now in recess.
Classic. Order. We are now ready to proceed with the election, so we will now begin.
Constituency name, whatever.
We are now done with the balloting. The clerks, accompanied by the House leaders, will now retire to the clerk's office to count the ballots, and we will be back shortly to announce the results of the first ballot. We are in recess.
Order. The House will resume. I recognize the Chief Clerk.
We have completed the first ballot, and we are ready to declare the election of a new Speaker. The new Speaker of the House of Assembly is the Honourable Member for Chester St. Margaret's.
Thank you. Oh, wrong one. I thank the honorable host. I thank the host for the great honor that has been bestowed upon me. I will do my best to uphold the prestige and high tradition of the Speaker's office. I respectfully ask the assistance and cooperation of all honorable members. Let his honor be admitted.
His Honor, the Lieutenant Governor, is without.
So do I get out? Let him be admitted. It's my first day.
His Honor, the Lieutenant Governor. It is the wish of His Honor, the Lieutenant Governor, that everyone present be seated.
May it please your honor. The House of Assembly, agreeable to your honor's command, has proceeded to the choice of the Speaker and has elected Danielle Barkos, member for the electoral district of Chester St. Margaret's, to that office, and by its direction, I present her for the approbation of your honor.
I approve of the Speaker whom the House of Assembly has chosen.
Your Honor's ready approval of the choice with which I have been honored by the House, having constituted me in due for Speaker of the House of Assembly. It has now become my duty in the name of the representatives of His Majesty's loyal subjects. The people of this province respectfully demand all their accustomed rights and privileges, and that they shall have freedom of speech in their debates, and that they may be free from arrest during their attendance in Parliament, and that I, as their Speaker, may have the free access to your House's persons.
I most cheerfully grant your request.
Please rise.
Her Honor, the Speaker.
You may be seated. I'm assuming it's customary to do a little bit of speech before you start. And all I want to say is that you've all worked very hard to be here, and you should all be very proud of yourselves. And I hope that I can make you all proud by sitting here. I'm proud to have had my name put forward and to have won, and I'm proud to be the second female speaker and to walk in the footprints of Carla McFarlane. If she's watching or when she watches, I just want to say hello. We all say hello, and we respect and adore you. And just take it easy on me. It's my first day, if you didn't know. And I have to find my first page. I recognize the Honorable House Leader. No, I don't recognize the Honorable House Leader. It's on the wrong page. Well, y'all get to see my nerves. We will start with the daily routine, presenting and reading petitions. I recognize the honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations on your election. I was wondering if I could make an introduction before I present my petition.
Please do.
Thank you. In the gallery opposite, there are 4 members of the Ocean Breeze Residents Association, or OBRA. These folks, you probably know, have been facing some untenable circumstances in their community. The Ocean Breeze community was purchased by a new owner, new conglomerate of owners, and is facing seeking redevelopment. And so all of the 1,000 residents of Ocean Breeze will eventually have to leave the community while their homes are demolished and then redeveloped into new housing. And so the Ocean Breeze Residents Association and these folks who are here today have been supporting each other, advocating for tenants' rights while this process happens, and working very hard to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen to more people in this province, especially in the fact with the fact that we're facing such a terrible housing crisis. So I'd like to welcome Julie Day, Stephanie McNabb, Celine Porcheron, and Jen Laverty, and to thank them, welcome them to the House. First of all, welcome. And on behalf of all MLAs, I would say thank them for their very hard and tireless work on behalf of their community, their neighbors, themselves, and may they be an example to others in the province. So thanks very much. I'm going to read the petition now. So the petition reads, or the operative clause reads, "We, the undersigned residents of Ocean Breeze Village, urge the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to engage the human, financial, regulatory, and political resources and powers of his department to ensure that the more than 1,000 long-term residents of the Ocean Breeze community, including seniors, children, veterans, and persons with disabilities, not be rendered homeless on the Minister's watch as a result of the demolition and redevelopment plans of Basin Heights. Further, given that we residents of Ocean Breeze face imminent eviction at the hands of a corporate developer with close political ties to the government, we call upon your government to work with other governments and agencies to ensure that all residents of Ocean Breeze be provided access to truly decent, affordable, and accessible housing before we are obliged to vacate our homes." Madam Speaker, there are over 200 signatures on this petition, and I have affixed my own as per the rules of the House. Thank you.
The petition is tabled. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy your time here. Presenting reports of committee. I recognize the honourable member for Halifax-Chebucto.
I was only waiting, Madam Speaker, to see if you needed to say that that the petition, in fact, had been tabled. So, thank you.
I did. The petition is tabled. Is there any other petitions? I recognize the honourable member for Halifax-Chebucto.
Before I present a petition, Madam Speaker, may I say a word of introduction?
Please do.
Thank you. This word of introduction is unrelated to the petition I wish to present, but I would like to welcome this afternoon Cheryl Ann Blackie and Blaine Blackie to the legislature. They are guests in the gallery behind me. Cheryl Ann and Blaine are the parents of Skylar Blackie, a Nova Scotia firefighter whose life was lost in a tragic accident at the Nova Scotia Firefighters School in 2019. Cheryl Ann and Blaine are very involved in working for improved safety and firefighters training in our province, and we welcome them to the House today.
I recognize the honourable member for Halifax-Chebucto.
Thank you. The petition I wish to present is also on the matter of residential tenancies. It reads this way: whereas over a quarter of those who are homeless for the first time are over the age of 60, and whereas nearly 6,000 people are on the wait list for public housing with an average wait time of 2 years, therefore be it resolved that the provincial government ban evictions of seniors whose incomes would qualify them for public housing until there is a place in public housing for them to go to. This petition has been signed by numerous residents of Rosebank Avenue and Beach Street in the constituency of Halifax-Chebucto, and I have also signed it.
The petition is tabled. Are there any other petitions? Presenting reports of committees. Tabling reports, regulations, and other papers. Statements by ministers. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Community Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just beg leave to make an introduction.
Please do.
In the East Gallery today, we are joined by Heather Mulligan and, more importantly, Hilary Richardson Murphy from beautiful Herring Cove. Both are here on behalf of the Canadian Cancer Society. Madam Speaker, I ask for a warm welcome from the House.
Please enjoy your time. No? Okay. Government notices of motion. I recognize the Honourable Government Host Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations on your appointment. I hereby give notice that on a future day I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas everyone is busy these days and there's never enough time, but speeding is not the answer. And whereas speed limits are set to make sure people can get where they need to safely. And whereas students are back in school and it is important to slow down and drive with extra care, especially when you're in school zones. Therefore, be it resolved, I would like to remind all Nova Scotians to slow down, take a little extra time, and do their part to keep our roads safe. Madam Speaker, I ask for waiver of notice and passage without debate.
There has been a request for waiver. Is it agreed? Agreed. Would all those in favor of the motion please say aye? Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations on your appointment. I hereby give notice that on a future day, I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas today marks the beginning of the school year for most of Nova Scotia's 135,000 students, an exciting day for youth, families, staff, and communities. And whereas our students will be guided in their learning journey by over 20,000 dedicated teachers, principals, and education staff across the province. And whereas this year brings a renewed focus on learning with new approaches to literacy and math, expanded course options in skilled trades and life skills, classrooms free from the distraction of cell phones, and in October, the introduction of Nova Scotia School Lunch Program. Therefore, be it resolved that all members of this legislature join me in welcoming our students and staff, thanking educators, families, and all others who support our students to learn and grow, and in wishing our school communities all the best for a successful year. Madam Speaker, I ask for waiver of notice and passage without debate.
There has been a request for waiver. Is it agreed? Agreed. Would all those in favor of the motion please say aye? Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. Introduction of bills. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to congratulate you. It's an absolute pleasure to see you in the chair. Madam Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act Respecting the Continuation of Certain Health Professional Associations.
The Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness begs leave to introduce a bill called the Act Respecting the Continuation of Certain Health Professional Associations.
Bill 459, an act respecting the continuation of certain health professional associations.
Ordered that the bill be read a second time on a future day. I recognize the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations on your election to that chair. Madam Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act Respecting Free Public Transit.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition begs leave to introduce a bill entitled Respecting Free Public Transit.
Bill 460, an act respecting free public transit.
Ordered that the bill be read a second time on a future day. I recognize the honourable leader for the NDP.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations. I beg leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act Respecting the Down Payment Assistance Program.
The honourable leader of the NDP begs leave to introduce an act respecting the Down Payment Assistance Program.
Bill 461, an act respecting the Down Payment Assistance Program.
Ordered that the bill be read a second time on a future day. I recognize the honourable member for Cumberland North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations on your new position. Wish you much success. I beg leave to table a bill entitled An Act Respecting Border Community Equity. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Cumberland North begs leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act Respecting Border Community Equity.
Bill 462, an act respecting border community equity.
Ordered that the bill be read a second time on a future date. I recognize the honourable leader for the NDP.
Madam Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 217 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Income Tax Act, respecting renters' relief.
The honourable leader of the NDP begs leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 217 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Income Tax Act, respecting renters' relief.
Bill 463, an act to amend Chapter 217 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Income Tax Act, respecting renters' relief.
Ordered that the bill be read a second time on a future date. I recognize the Honourable Minister for Labour, Skills and Immigration.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations. Madam Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act Respecting Stronger Workplaces for Nova Scotia.
The Honourable Minister for Labour, Skills and Immigration begs leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act Respecting Stronger Workplaces for Nova Scotia. Nova Scotians.
Bill 464, an act respecting stronger workplaces for Nova Scotia.
Ordered that the bill be read a second time on a future day. I recognize the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I beg leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Reduce the Harmonized Sales Tax.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition begs to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Reduce the Harmonized Sales Tax.
Bill 465, an act to reduce the harmonized sales tax.
Ordered that the bill be read a second time on a future date. I recognize the Honourable Member for Fairview Clayton Park.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations. It's lovely to see you up there. I beg leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Provide Students with Required School Supplies.
The Honourable Member for Fairview Clayton Park begs leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Provide Students with Required School Supplies.
Bill 466, an act to provide students with required school supplies.
Ordered that the bill be read a second time on a future date. Notices of motion. Statements by members. I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today I rise to recognize and congratulate the talented athletes who represented Nova Scotia as part of Team Canada at the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris. Basketball, boxing, canoe, kayak, gymnastics, sailing, shot put, and swimming each featured amazing athletes from our beautiful province. And I want to take a moment to individually recognize each Olympic athlete who represented our province. Ellie Black, Shay Colley, Connor Fitzpatrick, Antonia Lewin-LaFrance, Georgia Lewin-LaFrance, Sloan McKenzie, Riley Melanson, Sydney Pickram, Sarah Mitten, Michelle Russell, and Wyatt Sanford, all Nova Scotians, and all Nova Scotia is incredibly proud of each of you. The hard work and determination it takes to compete at an Olympic level is remarkable, and the effort you displayed at this year's Olympic Games is absolutely incredible. We can't wait to see you. We can't wait to see you. We can't wait to see what is next for each one of you. Your success is truly inspiring. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Timberley Prospect.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to honour and pay respects to my predecessor, former MLA of Timberley Prospect and Cabinet Minister Bill Esterbrooks, who passed away on June 4th of this year. The adoration around the communities I represent, and in many places of some of my colleagues, transcends politics, from teaching and time as principal in schools and volunteering with groups such as the St. Margaret's Bay Lions Club. Before he moved to Alberta, I would often visit Bill in Upper Tantallon to chat about how our Bruins are doing, the importance of door knocking between elections, as I continued on Friday afternoons as Bill did, and how best to stay above the petty political partisanship we see in this House far too often. I appreciate his invaluable insight and how he prescribed a new book to read, often on Mondays in this legislature on budget estimates. But Bill did a lot for Timberley Prospect, and what people would remember most is how he helped people, often on their worst days. A bit of advice was, do not automatically say that it is either a federal or a municipal issue, but to help them or find them help or the contact that they need. He was a formidable cabinet minister, involved in creating the 5-year capital plan and the first efficiency utility in Canada. Bill, however, was a constituency MLA first, something I believe we all should be in this House. After all, those are the voters who we report to, no matter what office we have the privilege to have. I ask the House of Assembly to join me in a moment of silence to remember and pay tribute to Bill Esterbrooks for his public service and many contributions to Nova Scotia. My thoughts are with his family. Bill Esterbrooks, outspoken and direct.
We'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. I recognize the Honourable Member for Cape Breton Centre, Whitney Pier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg leave to make an introduction prior to my statement.
Please do.
Thank you. Today, Madam Speaker, we are joined by our friends in the labour movement and officers of the Federation of Labour. Danny Kavanagh, Melissa Marsman, Hugh Gillis with NSGEU, Nan McFadgen with CUPE, Kevin McMullen, Paramedics Union, Sandra Mullins, NSGEU, and Matt Wynot, the CLC. I welcome them all to the House.
Welcome. Welcome. I hope you enjoy your time. I recognize the Honourable Member for Cape Breton Centre, Whitney Pier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations on your appointment. September 2nd was Labor Day, And I had the opportunity to celebrate the hard-won rights that were fought for and won by union members, Madam Speaker. It was also an opportunity to renew our resolve to continue to fight for better wages, safe working environments, and an end to employers being able to use scab labor to prolong strikes and create tensions on the picket line. Madam Speaker, it was a day of solidarity, and we continue to renew our solidarity every Labor Day. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to everyone that celebrated Labor Day, and thank you to all the district labor councils.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Labour Skills and Immigration.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the first day of the fall 2024 session, I want to rise and recognize the accomplishments and legacy of my father, the Honourable Gordon Douglas Balser. Born in Digby on February 24th of 1954 to my grandparents, Setti and Hartley Balser, Dad passed away on April 10th, 2024 at our home on Shelburne Road. Not only was Dad an incredible father, he was a devoted husband, grandfather, uncle, cousin, neighbor, friend, MLA, and minister. Dad was the original minister of everything, and during his time in government was responsible for very prominent portfolios, including Sydney Steel, economic development, transportation, and much, much more. Although I was so adamant to introduce or even mention Dad in the House, he wouldn't have it. Instead, he told me, "It isn't my time anymore, it's yours." And I will forever carry on his legacy here in this House and at home. As long as I have the privilege to represent Digby-Annapolis, Dad's accomplishments and his ties will be forever remembered. I love you, Dad. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Annapolis.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to congratulate you as well, and I would like permission to make an introduction.
Please do.
And I draw everyone's attention to the West Gallery, where we have one of my constituents, the former mayor of Annapolis Royal, and the current Police Complaints Commissioner, Mr. Bill McDonald. And Bill, I'd ask you to rise and receive a warm welcome of the House.
Welcome. We hope you enjoy your time. I recognize the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise today to remember a former colleague and a dear friend to many in this House and outside of the House, Tom O'Handley, who passed away suddenly. Born and raised in Glace Bay, Tom brought a positivity and warmth to every room that he entered. He was a loving husband to Heather and a proud and loving father to their son, Ellis. He was a genuine person, full of warmth and fun, and always made time for those around him. Tom's career was dedicated to service, working as an executive assistant in the provincial government, along with meaningful work with the Insurance Bureau of Canada, Easter Seals, and the QE2 Foundation. His joy for life, kindness, and humor will be deeply missed by all who knew him, especially his incredibly strong wife, Heather, his son, his best friend, Jeff McClellan, and the crew from Glace Bay, who knew him affectionately as Gooch. I ask this House to join me in extending thoughts and condolences to Tom's family at this difficult time, but I do know his memory and legacy will live on in the hearts and minds of all those whose lives he touched, particularly his son, Ellis. Thank you.
I recognize the Honourable Leader of NDP.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to welcome all students, educators, support staff, and families back to school for the 2024-25 school year. Fall is always an exciting time as we mark a return to routine, cooler weather, and hopefully learning and fun. As I sent my own 3 off this morning, I was reminded of what a momentous moment it is to move into a new year and a new classroom with teachers, peers, and environments to navigate. For all of the students out there, I wish you a year of learning, fun, and adventure. For the educators and staff, I hope you have a fulfilling year of doing the vital work of mentoring and supporting the children of this province with the resources and supports you need to do the job well. And to the parents in here and out there, stay strong. I ask all members of this House to join me in wishing everyone a safe, fun, and fruitful school year.
I recognize the honourable member for Cape Breton East.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to send my very best wishes to a true friend, a mentor, a dedicated public official, and the former Speaker of this House, the Honourable Alfie MacLeod, and his family. This past summer, our friend Alfie was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of cancer. Despite this difficult diagnosis, Alfie continues to live life. You can find him at the Tarbush game, auctioneering, and is certainly a great example of strength in times of adversity. Alfie has dedicated much of his life to public service, not just as a politician, but in his volunteer work on various boards and raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for communities across Cape Breton as an auctioneer. After years of serving others, we should take some time to think of him and his family, and Alfie will certainly be in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Fairview Clayton Park.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today I rise to celebrate the outstanding achievements of Beckett Nadeau, a remarkable student athlete from Halifax West High School. Beckett has distinguished himself not only in academics, but also in athletics, finishing his grade 12 year with honors as a multi-sport student athlete. Beckett was honored as the basketball MVP, a testament to his skill, leadership, and dedication on the court. In addition to his basketball prowess, he excelled in cross country, earning the cross country 100% award, which recognizes his commitment and excellence in every race. His most notable accolades last year, the School Sport Nova Scotia Award for Exemplary Participation, which is awarded to a male student athlete who embodies the core values of the Nova Scotia School Athletic Federation. Beckett has demonstrated exceptional sportsmanship, respect for others, and academic dedication, qualities that make him not only a leader in sports, but also an exemplary student and community member. Madam Speaker, let us applaud Beckett Nadeau for his achievements and the high standard he set as a student athlete. His example is an inspiration to his peers and a source of pride for our community. I wish him well as he starts his post-secondary journey at another of my alumni, the University of King's College, this week. Thank you.
I recognize the honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Madam Speaker, the community known as Ocean Breeze Village in Dartmouth North houses a vibrant array of people: seniors, young families, veterans, people with disabilities, people from the queer community, newcomers, and people of many faiths and cultures. It's a place where kids can play safely, where neighbors know each other, and where rents have been affordable for the 1,000 people or so that live there. The last couple of years have been extremely stressful for the residents of Ocean Breeze, as the land and apartments there were sold to a new owner who plans to redevelop the area and can't guarantee affordable housing options after the redevelopment. Late last month, townhouses in Ocean Breeze began to be demolished as the corporate owners of the area began the phased redevelopment. It's a very sad thing to watch perfectly good housing and a neighborhood turned into rubble in one part of my community, while in other parts, hundreds of people are struggling to find housing, living in tent encampments, in hotels, and in shelters. Something's wrong with the picture. As we begin this session, I hope this government will show some leadership and understanding of the complex and massive investment needed to make sure everyone has a permanent, safe home that they can afford.
Yes. I recognize the honourable member for Lunenburg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and sincere congratulations to you. Madam Speaker, today I would like to congratulate Ellie Black, a gymnast who represented both Canada and Nova Scotia in Paris at her 4th Olympic Games. You can tell from Ellie's performances on the floor, balance beam, bars, and vault that she is an athlete who displays tremendous determination, courage, and strength. But Ellie's strength is more than just physical. Her strength of character is just as remarkable. People around the world watched as Ellie consoled an athlete from France, showcasing her sportsmanship and compassion. It was a moment that brought all Nova Scotians together with tears of pride in our eyes. For this and other remarkable moments, Ellie was honored with the Paris 2024 Fair Play Award, Her continuous acts of generosity to her fellow gymnasts, along with her empathy and compassion for others, is something that truly makes us all so proud. Ellie, I know all members of this legislature congratulate you on all your hard work and leadership at this year's Games. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Clayton Park West.
Congratulations, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I rise today to recognize Pastor Mike Miller and his congregation at the Nova Church in Clayton Park West. I'm thrilled to share the incredible success of the backpack giveaway organized by Nova Church on August 25th at the Halifax West High School, sorry. The turnout was amazing, with so many families showing up to receive much-needed school supplies. I'm beyond proud of Pastor Miller and his congregation for the tremendous impact they've had for several years on our community. Every year, many families in Nova Scotia, including right here in Clayton Park West, struggle to afford the supplies needed to send their children back to school. Recognizing this challenge, Pastor Miller and his team filled 1,000 backpacks with essential school supplies and distributed them to families across our community. Madam Speaker, I would like to ask that the House join me in recognizing the positive impact that Pastor Miller and his team is having on the people that have been touched by his generosity. Thank you.
I recognize the honourable member for Halifax-Chebucto.
Madam Speaker, I'm sure that all the members of the House join me in extending congratulations to the member for Cape Breton Centre, Whitney Peer, on her marriage to Matthew Brown on August 17th in a ceremony at the Horizon Achievement Centre in Sydney. The newly married member has explained here several times how she has one sibling, her brother Adam. Adam, who has Down syndrome, is in fact employed at the Horizon Achievement Centre. And anyone who saw the bride and her brother as he walked her down the aisle and was not moved, Madam Speaker, is probably beyond the reach of help. May all the House join in extending every warm wish for all the wonderful days to come to Matthew Brown, and you will allow me this once to say Kendra Coombs Brown. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Sackville-Uniacke.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, it's with a heavy heart today that I rise to honor the life and memory of a constituent and a longtime personal friend of mine, Jim Parisi. On my constituency days, Jim, whose house often just behind my office, would often make his way over on his scooter to sit and have a good conversation. Jim was born in Smooth Rock Falls, Ontario, and took an oath to serve his community regardless of the age, the tasks that he faced. He initially served with the Royal Canadian Navy for 10 years before returning to Nova Scotia and settling down in Middle Sackville with his wife, Gigi. Jim worked for various organizations to continue serving, including the Hudson Bay, as well as Halifax Regional School Board, and then retired from the school board in 2001. In addition, Jim enjoyed spending much of his time volunteering at the local Sackville Heights Community Centre. Speaker, I'd ask that the members of the House join me in sending sincere condolences to Jim's wife, Geraldine, their family and friends. Rest in peace, Jim.
I recognize the honourable member for Clare.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to recognize the retirement of Municipal Councillor Neil Doucet of St. Bernard for his dedicated service to the municipality of Clare. First elected in 2004, Neil has served his district for the past 20 years. Throughout his tenure on council, Neil played an active role on several key committees, including the Planning Advisory Committee, the Public Works Committee, the Doctor Recruitment Committee, the Clare Firefighters Association, and the Highway 101 Task Force. Neil's commitment to his community extends beyond council. He has consistently volunteered with numerous organizations and frequently attended local ceremonies and events. Recently, Neil announced that he will not be seeking re-election at the upcoming municipal election. I ask that all members join me in expressing our heartfelt gratitude to Neil Doucet for his many years of dedicated service to the municipality of Clare. Merci.
I recognize the honourable member for Halifax Needham.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations to your appointment.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to wish all students, staff, bus drivers, parents, and caregivers a happy first day of school and a great school year to come. The first day of school is highly anticipated by the kiddos and parents mostly. The hustle and bustle of getting ready, new or clean clothes, hair being done or cut, clean sneakers, and the plethora of school supplies. As a parent to many at home, getting ready is like a marathon, where getting on the bus is the finish line. Waving them off was filled with excitement and possibly claps and cheers as they go along. I would like all members of this House to please send warm wishes to everyone preparing to see their kiddos off today and wish them a happy and healthy school year to come.
I recognize the honourable member of Pictou West for his very first member statement.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to bring recognition to my friend, constituent, and St. Yvette's psychology professor, Dr. Margot Watt, for her recent book, Cases in Clinical Forensic Psychology. Dr. Watt's book received the 2024 Significant Contribution Award presented by the Criminal Justice Section of the Canadian Psychological Association. This award recognizes a recently completed work that makes a significant contribution to the application of psychology to criminal behavior, criminal justice, and/or law. In addition to meeting the eligibility criteria, the nominated contribution is assessed on measures of quality, innovation, and potential impact. Each chapter of Dr. Watt's book is written in collaboration with students and colleagues and serves as a model of meaningful collaboration and partnership. Madam Speaker, I ask that all members of the Nova Scotia Legislature join me in recognizing Dr. Watt's work that casts a clinical forensic lens on important Canadian criminal cases that warrant analysis and study. Bravo, Dr. Watt.
I recognize the honourable member for Northside Westmount.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, September is a time for new beginnings as we see all of the students going back to school today. But I want to bring special recognition to our student, Sammy McDougall, who started his university career this week at Cape Breton University. Sammy has been with us since he's 15 years old. And Joanne and I, my constituency assistant, we call ourselves his work parents. We've seen him grow into a fine young man who's going to do amazing work for this province and this country. I just see it coming. So congratulations, Sammy. All the best. Great job this summer. Enjoy your university days, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
I recognize the honourable member for Halifax Citadel Sable Island.
Merci. Madame la Présidente, c'est le jour où on souligne le grand dérangement des Acadiens de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Mais c'est aussi une bonne occasion de reconnaître le grand succès du Congrès acadien mondial de l'année passée. J'invite tous les membres de cette Assemblée ainsi que tous les néo-écossais de me joindre en donnant un gros remerciement à tout le monde qui s'impliquait afin d'accueillir des milliers de personnes au certains des événements. J'ai eu le plaisir d'assister au Forum économique et des femmes, une soirée chez le Wedgeport Legion menée par Acadian Embassy, le grand concert de 15 août et bien sûr la grande Tantemar. On ne l'aurait pas pu faire sans des gros efforts de bénévoles. Vive l'Acadie. The day where we commemorate the great upheaval of Acadians in Nova Scotia is also a great day to recognize the success of the Acadian World Congress this past August. I ask all members of the House and all Nova Scotians to join me in sending a big thank you to everyone who got involved in hosting thousands of guests at hundreds of events. I had the pleasure of attending the Economic and Women's Forums, an evening at the Wedgeport Legion with Acadian Embassy, the Big Cane Zoo concert, and of course the Tantamar. We couldn't have done it without the extraordinary efforts of all the volunteers. Vive l'Acadie.
I recognize the honourable member for Truro, Bible Hill, Millbrook, and Salmon River.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Congratulations on your election as Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to recognize the remarkable life of Truro business and community leader and family friend Tom Stanfield, who passed away peacefully at 81, surrounded by his loving family on July 23, 2024. A lifelong resident of Truro and nephew of former Premier Robert Bob Stanfield, Tom's dedication to his family, community, and business was unparalleled. As chairman, president, and CEO of Stanfields Limited, he led the company for over 5 decades, leaving a lasting mark on the industry. Beyond business, Tom was a committed community leader, serving in various roles that shaped Truro and Nova Scotia. His legacy of leadership, generosity, and humor will be cherished by all that knew him. Tom's impact lives on through his family, friends, and the countless lives he's touched. My thoughts go out to his wife, Beth, their children, Jennifer, Jill, and John, and their immediate families. Madam Speaker, I ask all members of the House to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Please stand for a moment of silence. Do I stand? Thank you. Please be seated. I recognize the honourable member for Bedford South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As today is the first day of school, as we know, I wanted to extend my best wishes to all of the students, teachers, administrators, staff, everybody who's involved with the schools that are either in my riding or serve kids in my riding of Bedford South, and that would be Charles Piallen High School, West Bedford High School, West Bedford School, École Secondaire du Sommet, École Beaubassin, Grosvenor Wentworth, and Rockingham Elementary as well. First day of school is exciting, nerve-wracking for some, but all in all, it's the beginning of an amazing journey over the next 10 months as our students and teachers move forward. And in particular, I want to give a shout out to the 2 students in my household, my son Bo, who started grade 2, and my daughter Heidi, who was very excited to start big school in pre-primary. So I hope they had a great day. School just ended. I'm sure they did very well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Cumberland North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I rise to congratulate 2 young women from Cumberland North who were recently awarded the first Kate Saxton Memorial Scholarships. Casey Brown, a graduate of Pugwash District High School who will attend NSCC Truro campus in the Criminal Justice Program, and Amherst Regional High School graduate Samantha Wood, who will be attending Acadia University to study neuroscience, were selected both to receive the scholarships in June of this year. In their applications, both young ladies demonstrated a clear vision of how they see themselves accomplishing their goals and ultimately helping others. As many of you know, Kate Saxton was my legislative assistant who passed away in 2022. Kate had a passion for politics and for encouraging other young people to pursue their dreams. To honor Kate, members of our community established a scholarship fund that will assist young women from Cumberland North constituency to pursue further education in a field focused on improving our world. Madam Speaker, I would ask my colleagues to join me in congratulating Casey Brown and Samantha Wood and to wish them very best on their future endeavors. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Halifax Citadel Sable Island.
Madam Speaker, this past summer, Nova Scotia said goodbye to an iconic resident of Halifax Citadel Sable Island. Most folks who spent any amount of time in downtown Halifax in the past 40 years will recall a gentleman in a sensible pinstripe suit blazer paired with a skirt and bright red pumps. Not everyone knows that this man's name was Harold Anderson, and he was and will remain a true pioneer of self-expression in Halifax. Harold held a wide variety of jobs over the years, including bookkeeper, public servant, and debt collector, but his true passion was country music. He had an encyclopedic knowledge of country music from the 40s through to the 60s, and anyone in his life knew he could find the perfect song for any occasion. Over the years, he became known for his sense of style, and as Tuma Young puts it, simply being at the vanguard of gender fluidity. In an interview many years ago, Harold mused that likes and dislikes should not be governed by my gender. Women weren't called cross-dressers for wearing pants, so why is there a double standard for men? Speaker, I ask that going forward, as a means of carrying on his legacy, we all try to live our lives and embrace each other's differences through Harold's lens of inclusivity.
I recognize the honourable member for Halifax Atlantic.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations. Madam Speaker, I am proud to recognize Chad Brooks for his outstanding work as coach for the canoe-kayak team at the Paris Olympics. His dedication and leadership played a crucial role in guiding our athletes to perform at their very best on the world stage. Chad's commitment to excellence and his ability to inspire make him a true mentor in our country, our province, and our community. The team's success in Paris reflects all their hard work and the high standards Chad upholds. I congratulate Chad on his and the team's achievement and look forward to a continued positive impact in canoe, kayak, and beyond. Thank you for all you do, Chad.
I recognize the honourable member for Cole Harbour, Dartmouth.
Thank you, and congratulations on becoming the second female Speaker of the Nova Scotia Legislature. I stand today to recognize Cole Harbour District High School's volunteerism club, CAV Unity. CAV Unity was created this past school year by the then grade 12 students, Natalie and Jin, along with grade 10 IB student, Isaiah, who will lead the group this year. Its goal is to unite students and make a positive impact both within the school and our broader community. CAV Unity provides students with the opportunity to engage in public relations, host events, volunteer, and receive guidance on post-secondary education and scholarships. I was invited to speak at their Women in Politics seminar and organized a trip to tour Province House with this group this past spring. Before the school year ended, CAV Unity had conducted a food drive for Out of the Cold Halifax, embarked on a major initiative for the IWK by hosting a bingo night, bottle drive, raffle, and planned a movie night. I asked the members of the House to join me in congratulating CAV Unity and wish the student organization much success in the future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to also take the time today to wish a bon rentrée, a welcome back, happy return to all the students, teachers, bus drivers, support staff, everyone who's returning to school today for another year of learning and growing. Especially wanted to shout out the schools in Dartmouth North, or just on the cusp of Dartmouth North and Dartmouth South. Dartmouth High School, of course, École Secondaire Mosaic, John Martin Junior High, Bicentennial School, École Shannon Park School, John McNeil Elementary, Harborview Elementary, Creighton Park School, and especially I want to wish my two, who are now in grade 5 and grade 7, both in middle school. We've said goodbye to elementary school this year. I wish them a very happy year full of fun and discovery and adventure and learning, and to thank all their teachers who will no doubt have their work cut out for them. Thanks.
I recognize the honourable member for Preston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations on your appointment as Speaker of this House. Madam Speaker, I rise today to recognize and celebrate the remarkable achievements of Shay Collin, who has once again demonstrated her exceptional talent and dedication on the global stage. Shay recently competed on the Canadian women's basketball team in her second Olympic Games. Shay's journey to this point has been one of relentless hard work, perseverance, and unwavering commitment to her sport. As a key player on the team, Shay has not only represented our country with pride, but has also inspired countless young athletes across the country. Colley averaged 12.3 points per game, including a team-high 17 points against Nigeria. Her performance in Paris was a testament to her skill, her leadership, and passion for the game. Competing at the Olympics is a pinnacle of athletic achievement, and to do so twice is a remarkable accomplishment that speaks to Shay's consistent excellence as a basketball player. Let us all join in congratulating Shay on her outstanding accomplishments and wishing her continued success in her career. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Halifax-Armdale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations for your appointment for this seat. Madam Speaker, on September the 2nd, we had long weekend to celebrate Labor Day, and I would like to recognize the hardworking Nova Scotians who make our province a good place to live. Madam Speaker, I would like to ask the members of this House to join me and to thank the hardworking Nova Scotian. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Halifax-Needham.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to recognize and celebrate the Lucas family reunion, which happened on July 25th to the 28th of this year. Lucasville was founded in 1827 by Black loyalists James Lucas and Moses Oliver, who immigrated as free slaves from the United States. At the reunion, descendants from all over North America come home to Lucasville for a celebration of culture, history, and family. The theme honoring our heritage, past, present, and future is so significant. Looking back into the past and learning from it are essential steps to taking control of one's destiny, as well as finding success in the present. The Lucas Family Reunion is a time to come together to connect and reconnect with family, learn about the lineage of folks, and have a good time while being in great company. I would like all members of this House of Assembly to join me in celebrating the Lucas family and the community of Lucasville for continuing the legacy. Thank you to all the families for your hard work and dedication in making this year's family reunion a success.
I recognize the honourable member for Hants West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And as a former seatmate of yours, I'm going to miss you in the seat beside me, but I'm very proud and honored to see you there today. So congratulations. Madam Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Tracy Swicker on the recent opening of Tracy's Place in Windsor. Tracy, along with her CEO Michael and team members Kelly and Paulette, are offering care for adults living with intellectual disabilities. She has created an incredible space filled with tons of natural light, many activities, sensory rooms, quiet places, gathering spaces, and so much more. Not a detail was missed. Madam Speaker, from the moment I walked in the door and I met Tracy and her team, it was easy to see that her vision has come from a place of love deep within her heart. Tracy's Place offers respite options for our community, where I know participants will receive excellent care in an inclusive, safe environment. Madam Speaker, I ask that all members join me in congratulating Tracy on creating such an amazing space and offering a service in our community that is much needed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Bedford Basin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to congratulate you as well on your new position, and I know you will ensure that the voices of members will be heard. There once was a boy with rocks in his pockets. That's how Donald Reid was introduced when he was inducted into the Order of Nova Scotia. He was known locally in Joggins as a keeper of the cliffs. He was born near the cliffs that shaped his life and fueled his passion for fossil hunting. With no formal training in paleontology, he gathered an extensive collection of fossils, which now forms the heart of the Joggins Fossil Centre. His work was essential in securing the cliffs as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, Don passed away in 2016, but now his name will live on forever because he's had a fossil named for him, Pygocephalicnium reedi. It's a huge honor for his loving family and a remembrance of his life's work. Congratulations, Don.
I recognize the honourable member of Cape Breton Centre, Whitney Pier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Over the past weeks, teachers, support staff, custodians, and bus drivers and admin staff have been preparing to welcome students back to school. It is no easy task getting schools ready. Cleaning and decorating hallways and classrooms may also include fresh coat of paint, and reviewing those bus routes, and so much more, Madam Speaker. Today, the anticipated moment arrived. Our children entered their schools welcomed by smiling faces. My oldest, Rory, walked confidently into primary. I want to thank all those who are working in our education system, and I wish everyone a happy, safe, and successful year.
I recognize the honourable member of Shelburne.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise today to recognize Anne Perry in her efforts to raise awareness about colorectal cancer with the goal of reducing deaths. Now, this is a very treatable disease if caught in time. Sadly, Anne had lost her husband, Toby, in 2019 at the age of 49. Since then, Anne has worked on many fundraisers, including bringing the Push for Your Tush run to Shelburne, and this is the third summer in a row for the run. In its inaugural year, it was the only location in Canada outside of one out of 4 major cities. And this year, Anne's event raised over $24,000, and that's the 4th highest amount raised in the 12 events in Canada. Along with her children, Anne created Test for Toby on Facebook and Instagram, where people can become informed about the symptoms and the importance of regular early testing and checkups. Madam Speaker, I respectfully ask all members join me in thanking Anne for her commitment in increasing awareness and changing the narrative regarding colorectal cancer. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Northside Westmount.
Madam Speaker, this summer was a very busy time in Northside Westmount, and I just wanted to bring recognition to a couple of organizations that put on some amazing festivals in our area. The Highland Games was in July, well attended, beautiful ceremony and lots of activity. The Heritage Festival in City Mines for 3 days with music and food and fun. And also the Northside Boys annual Show Your Ride car show, which had over 500 entrants and thousands of people showed up in the town. It was a wonderful summer, and congratulations to those groups for keeping things alive in Northside Westmount. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member of Antigonish.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg leave to make an introduction.
Please do.
So I would ask the House to acknowledge my husband, Darren, who's here with me today. We celebrated 30 years of marriage this summer, and Darren's seen me debate in other areas of our life, but today he gets an opportunity to see me debate here. So welcome, and it is a bit nerve-wracking having you here, so I hope I'll do you proud.
We hope you enjoy your time here, and we also hope you enjoy question period. Order. The time allotted for statements by member has expired. Orders of the day, oral questions put to by the members to the ministers. I recognize the honourable leader of the official opposition.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it has been 3 years since this Premier was elected to be Premier of this province, and he was elected on big promises to Nova Scotians. But so far, Madam Speaker, on health care, on housing, on coastal protection, it's been all promise with no progress. I'll point the Premier's attention to the needed doctor wait list. More than 90,000 Nova Scotians have been added to that list over the last 3 years. Madam Speaker, when the Premier was opposition leader and that number was below 70,000, it was a health care crisis. That number is now over 160,000 people without a family doctor that we know of. Madam Speaker, my question to the Premier, does he understand and would he agree that the more patients in Nova Scotia that are not attached to a family doctor, the worse the healthcare crisis is going to get under his leadership?
I recognize the honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and we certainly want people to be attached to a primary care provider. There's no question about that. We're taking action to improve health care in this province. Our plan is working. Today, Madam Speaker, there are 300 more doctors than there were in 2021. Today, Madam Speaker, in this province, there are over 2,000 more nurses than they were in 2021, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, just yesterday we announced a partnership with Google Cloud that means Nova Scotians will have access to the same technology as the Mayo Clinic, Madam Speaker. Our plan is working. We know there's work to be done, but we'll keep doing it, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honourable Leader of the Opposition with his first supplementary question.
Madam Speaker, the outcomes in the things that matter to people in healthcare are getting worse. We've got over 160,000 people in Nova Scotia without a family doctor. ER closures unlike we've ever seen before. Wait times increasing for ambulances, tripling in some parts of the province. And Madam Speaker, the government hasn't even shared the most updated numbers for the needed doctor registry. Last we heard it was 160,000. This Premier has hid the most updated numbers from Nova Scotians for the last 3 months. We are supposed to get updates every month on how many people need a family doctor. My question to the Premier is, why is he hiding the numbers from a needed doctor wait list?
I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have a plan. We have a website people can go see. They can actually see what's happening in the healthcare system. They can see the data and understand it because we're gathering the data. We know how the system is working. We know there's work to be done. But I'll tell the member, more doctors, more nurses, more homes. These are the things that are happening in this province right now. Our plan is working, and we will continue to work, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition with his final supplementary.
Madam Speaker, we are not seeing progress on the things that matter in housing, in homelessness, or in healthcare. This Premier has held critical data for Nova Scotians to understand the state of our healthcare system. How many people don't have a family doctor? That number has been hidden for 3 months because the Premier thinks that being able to do a Google search and having a phone app is going to replace family doctors for Nova Scotians. That's not the case. Why is the Premier withholding this information from the public?
I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, more doctors, more nurses, more homes. Our plan is working. But Madam Speaker, don't take my word for it. The honourable member may be familiar with Jane Philpott. The Honourable Jane Philpott was in Nova Scotia, and she tweeted out, "I had breakfast with the premiers yesterday in Halifax. Also, had a fantastic afternoon with the leaders of Nova Scotia Health. They are leading the way with an ambitious, detailed plan." That's from Jane Philpott, Madam Speaker. That's the person that I look up to. Table that for the House.
I recognize the Leader of the NDP.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we speak to Nova Scotians every day for whom housing costs are the biggest stressor in their lives. In 2022, the Housing Needs Assessment commissioned by this government found that 78% of Nova Scotians were struggling to find housing they could afford. 78%. We've seen no evidence of improvement, with many people from one end of the province to the other facing housing insecurity, inability to afford housing for the very first time in their lives. When will the Premier acknowledge that affordability is something that this government must meaningfully address?
I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And we know that the best way to tackle the cost of living is by driving down the cost of homes and by driving down rental costs. This is the largest expense most people have. So that's why we're bringing down barriers to home construction. And our plan is working, Madam Speaker. Housing starts are up. Our plan will create more than 40,000 new units by 2028. The solution to the housing problem is more housing, Madam Speaker, and our plan is working. We've just continued to announce record investments in affordable housing. We will continue to get that work done, Madam Speaker, but the plan is working.
I recognize the Honourable Leader of the NDP.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This government announces programs created and dollars spent every day. But what we don't hear about are the results of that. We hear about housing starts. We don't hear about housing completions. Take Happy Pad, which after $1 million investment resulted in 23 leases signed. That wasn't an announcement. That was the result of a FOIPOP. The fact that despite the 5% rent cap, actual rents increased this year by 18.2%. Nova Scotians will know that the measures are working when people aren't being evicted into homelessness, when encampments aren't lining our streets, and when people across this province can actually find housing they can afford. And right now, none of that is true. It's not working. When will Nova Scotians be able to find housing they can actually afford?
I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And it is true, we're not shy about trying new things. Absolutely. I mean, I know the opposition wants us to keep trying the same old tired solutions to things that just really didn't solve the problem. We will try new things. Nova Scotians have a right to expect that. And housing starts are up. That is a good thing. There are more doctors, there are more nurses, there are more homes. That is evidence that our plan is working. We know there's work to be done, Madam Speaker, but we will continue to do it, and we will not be shy to try new things on behalf of Nova Scotians.
I recognize the Leader of the NDP with her final supplementary.
A new thing, invest in the non-market housing sector. The creation of truly affordable, as in the person looking for the home can afford it, housing is key. It must be prioritized over things like failed apps and luxury condos. Truly affordable housing is best created by non-market providers who keep that housing affordable forever. However, funding and support for non-market housing remains piecemeal and insufficient. We have nonprofits eager to build more of this type of housing, and they say they could start tomorrow if the support was there. My question is, where are the results? Why is this government failing to incentivize and build the truly affordable housing that Nova Scotians need?
I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And the reality is unlike past Liberal and NDP governments, we are making record investments in affordable housing. The Liberals, they refused to invest when they were there. The NDP, actually, Madam Speaker, they just sat on tens of millions of dollars. They didn't deploy. They literally sat on cash from the federal government. We are not sitting on cash. We are investing in affordable housing. We are investing in Nova Scotians, and we will continue to act every single day on their behalf. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I really do believe that with this Premier, everything is about optics, it's not about outcomes. We've seen that in healthcare, where the Premier's response to a healthcare crisis is a phone app. We've seen that with housing, the Premier's response, a phone app. With coastal protection, I'll give the House one guess. There's an app for that too, Madam Speaker. Premier even travels to Silicon Valley, where I think he's going to find more apps to fix all the problems that we have here in Nova Scotia. He has spent tens of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money in untendered contracts for these apps at a time when the people who need a family doctor have doubled, when homelessness has doubled, when wait times have doubled. Does he really think that phone apps and Google searches are going to replace family doctors for patients in Nova Scotia?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the member for the question. So what I will say is that we've had hundreds of thousands of downloads of the app. We've had over 1 million views of people of their health records as a result of that app. People are feeling more empowered. It's allowing them to have conversations with their families, with their physicians, with their nurse practitioners. It allows them to navigate the system in a very different way. The past is not the future, which is exactly what is wrong with the healthcare. They sat inert, waiting for something to change. Well, we came along. We are the change, and we are transforming healthcare.
I recognize the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition with his final supplementary.
Madam Speaker, this government talks about downloading the app and how many people are doing that as a good thing. This is a sign of how desperate Nova Scotians are to access medicine in this province, Madam Speaker. People are not going to fix their complicated health challenges that they have because they have access to an app. We don't need more phone apps in Nova Scotia. We need more doctors that are attached to patients. That is the only thing that's going to work, Madam Speaker. My question to the Premier, he made a big promise to fix health care. We're also hearing that doctors are leaving the province because the NSHA is not helping keep them there. Does he really think that these phone apps and Google searches can replace family doctors for patients in this province?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
We have net new 300 physicians in this province since 2021. If the member opposite was concerned about physicians leaving the province, perhaps they would have paid more attention to the HHR plan. There have been no health resources under them. We have been working tirelessly to get out of the hole that we're in. We have 2,000 more nurses. We have increased the number of nurse practitioners. There are 840,000 more appointments per year for people to access primary care in this province. We have settled contracts. We have reinforced our paramedicine. We have done everything, and we will continue to work very hard because we will transform healthcare. It is happening right now.
Hear, hear.
I recognize the honourable leader of the official opposition.
Madam Speaker, what the government doesn't share is that there's less doctors per capita now in Nova Scotia than when they started, and their own numbers say that. Again, this government makes big promises. It's all about optics and no delivery, no progress, Madam Speaker. We've seen that with their economic plan as well. This government, under this Premier, promised Nova Scotians that a Nova Scotia Loyal program would contribute an estimated $1.4 billion to our province's GDP. $1.4 billion, Madam Speaker. My question to the Premier is, how many seat points have to be bought with taxpayers' money to get to $1.4 billion in GDP growth in this province?
I recognize the honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank the member for his question. Nova Scotia Loyal, we have delivered, and we have delivered a program that was built by and built for Nova Scotians. And Nova Scotians told us what they needed, what would help them to better identify and be able to do more purchasing of locally made and grown products. They, in fact, told us that they didn't need another card in their wallet, and that is why we looked to the existing points programs. But it is not a one-legged stool. It is multifaceted, and it's just rolling out.
I recognize the honourable leader of the official opposition.
Well, Madam Speaker, I'm sure one thing that Nova Scotians didn't tell this government to do was to give Sobeys more money in Nova Scotia, more taxpayers' money. And I'm sure that when Nova Scotians actually look at what they're getting for that money, they're going to be a bit perplexed. The Premier announced that you get 50 scene points for buying something local. I went into Sobeys on the week that this was announced, and Madam Speaker, I could have got 100 scene points for buying Mr. Noodles. I'll table that. Now, if I bought a package of Dunkaroos, I would have got 500 scene points. That's equivalent to 10 months' worth of the Nova Scotia Loyal incentives. Will the Premier please admit to this House that the Nova Scotia Loyal program was more about his loyalty to the Sobeys Corporation than helping people buy local products in Nova Scotia?
I recognize the honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you to the member opposite for the question. He's starting to get it. It's true. Big corporations and big producers, the Dunkaroos, they are able to pay extraordinary fees to have the corner shelves and to have special incentives, to have additional scene points. But we are offering 50 cents worth of points, value of points, on every Nova Scotia product. And already, for the first time, there are products that people are discovering, the vast array of Nova Scotia products. The Federation of Agriculture has asked to please put politics aside. This is a good thing, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Cole Harbour, Dartmouth.
Madam Speaker, on July 26, 22, the Premier appointed Tom Hickey as the head of Invest Nova Scotia. A mere 2 weeks later, Mr. Hickey resigned, and I'll table that. Tom Hickey has one of the Premier's many friends, is the owner of Atlantic Roadway and Construction, which is planning to infill Dartmouth Cove and has, without permission, encroached on public land partially administered by the very organization he had been appointed by the Premier to lead. So for the record, does the Premier support his friend's plan to infill Dartmouth Cove?
I I recognize the Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Madam Speaker, in reply to that question, I will say that this is an area of federal and municipal jurisdiction, and to my knowledge, there's no role on the province in any part of this infill question. So I just, that's the answer.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Cole Harbour Dartmouth.
As I was told when I started not to expect answers during question period, so I'm not going to expect that to be an answer. So, Madam Speaker, the Premier has promised that he'll protect our coastlines, but he has not yet made any progress. The government has failed to proclaim the Coastal Protection Act. Therefore, it has no ability to manage development and infilling along our coastlines. To the Premier, have your friends and donors influenced your decision to not enact the original all-party approved Coastal Protection Act? What has changed?
I recognize the Honourable Minister for Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, congratulations on your election as Speaker of this House. And I want to thank the member for the question. Despite the misinformation that's being put out there by the opposition with respect to our Coastal Action Plan, we've made huge inroads in the past number of months. We have 15 actions in that plan. 4 out of those 15 have been accomplished. We are continuing our work with the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities to design the example bylaws. We have to ensure, working with our municipalities, as they know their communities best, residents do not build in unsafe areas. We are moving forward with a strong, comprehensive plan that all Nova Scotians can be proud of. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Dartmouth North.
Madam Speaker, here we are embarking on yet another month without any update to the Need of Family Practice Registry. In June, when the list was last updated, 16.2% of the population, more than 160,000 Nova Scotians, were on the waiting list, waiting to be attached to primary care. I can table that. This government can play around with the data all it wants, but the fact remains that the healthcare crisis in this province is worsening, and people want to know when things will get better. Now, we didn't hear an answer from the Premier, so I'm going to ask the Minister of Health. To the Minister of Health, why won't this government release an update to the Need of Family Practice Registry?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the member opposite for the question. So as we did last summer, we have undertaken a validation exercise. So the people that are currently on the Need of Family Practice Registry are now being called to have their information validated. We want to understand whether or not they have already been attached, because the functionality of that list needs to be improved, and we continue to do that. We're understanding their health status. We're understanding all the situations that lead them to be on that registry. It is moving from a list that was never looked at or managed to a registry that allows people to connect to primary care in order to connect to chronic disease management, prenatal care. It cannot be rushed, and we're doing a wonderful job through Nova Scotia Health, and when those numbers are ready, they will be released.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Dartmouth North.
Madam Speaker, last spring the Premier indicated his government might scrap the Need of Family Practice Registry altogether, and now the health authority has been reviewing the registry for months, trying to remove people from the list. The last time this government reviewed the registry, most were removed because of invalid health cards, and many others were mistakenly removed. Can the minister explain why this government is spending more time hiding and downplaying the list than it is working to actually attach people to care?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
I don't think calling all of the individuals who are on that registry to find out more about their health care is hiding. I actually would say that that is patient-centered care, and I'm very proud of the work that's happening around validating that list. What's important to understand about that list, and to quote the Honourable Dr. Jane Philpott again, Nova Scotia leads the way on access to primary care, literally calling everyone on the registry to validate details, assess risk, provide interim measures as they recruit and build primary care teams with the end goal of a health home for every community. Other provinces, take note.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Timberley Prospect.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That entire party voted in 2019 for the Coastal Protection Act. Not only that, in 2022, the minister said the Coastal Protection Act and its regulation will give us the action plan and the tools we need to adapt and mitigate the impacts of climate change, and I'll table that. And because some, you can only conclude, some wealthy landowners want to actually build in unsafe areas along our coastline, that act was scrapped. All promise and no progress when it comes to protecting our sensitive coastline. When will this government keep the promise to Nova Scotians and proclaim that Coastal Protection Act?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, Nova Scotians love our coastline. And that is why we came forward with a balanced, comprehensive plan to protect our coastlines, to work with our 49 municipal units to ensure we have coastal protection. I'm very proud of the action plan that we have put forward in this province, that now 6 months later we are seeing tangible results. 4 out of the 15 actions have been implemented. We have now, Madam Speaker, a coastal coordinator attached to the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, and they are getting to work with the municipal units to develop the example bylaws to ensure our residents do not build in unsafe areas. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Timberley Prospect.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to talk about a real-life scenario. They're talking about choice for landowners. What about the scenario where a landowner wants to build in an unsafe area next to the coastline, wants to build right up to the high water mark, wants to limit public access, maybe right on top of a wetland? I just want to understand the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, his position on this. If a municipality does not have a bylaw preventing that landowner from building right there in an unsafe place that damages the environment, is the Minister of Environment okay with that wealthy landlord, possibly a PC party donor, building on that land?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Madam Speaker, the Coastal Action Plan is designed to serve all Nova Scotians, to protect all Nova Scotians who live specifically along the coastline. We need to ensure, as we move this province forward, that we are climate resilient. And that is why the action plan is a key component of our overall response with the Environmental Goals and Climate Change Reduction Act, with our climate change plan, with our risk assessment. All of this working together has positioned Nova Scotia as a leader on sustainable prosperity, on climate action. Don't just take my word for it. Take the word of Pembina Institute, which has ranked Nova Scotia 3rd in climate change policy and sustainable development. We are a leader on climate policy, and I'll table that, Madam Speaker. I'll table that.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Bedford South.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I want to talk about HappyPad today again. So, we've seen HappyPad has invested, the government has invested $1.3 million into the HappyPad app to produce an astounding total of 23 leases. Now, do a little math here. That works out to $56,000 of taxpayer money for each and every lease that has been signed. So, I wanted to ask the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs, is it a good sign that he and the Minister of Advanced Education have mentioned HappyPad more times in this House than leases that have actually been signed?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Madam Speaker, I think that you could say that they brought it up more, but the reality is we're making unprecedented investments across the housing spectrum. We realize the housing crisis in Nova Scotia has many facets. We're working very hard as a government. When we came into government, we were at about $120 million a year. Now we're well over $600 million a year investment in housing. We're starting to see that take hold. Housing starts are up in 2023 by 25%. We're working very hard across the spectrum. This is one aspect of that work. I'm proud of every part of the job that we've done, Madam Speaker, and we will continue to work hard in housing.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Bedford South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think what would be unprecedented in Nova Scotia would be $56,000 a lease. I'm just guessing, but I imagine that would be unprecedented. So $1.3 million on this app. This is money that, in my view, and in the view of many, I think, would have been much better spent going to nonprofit housing providers, for example, to provide permanent, affordable, long-term housing. Or that could have rented 66 average two-bedroom units for a year. Now, the government is sending out flyers about HappyPad. I will table that in a last-ditch effort to save a sinking ship. So I would ask the minister, how much is the government spending on this advertising, and when will we actually see some results from this program? Thank you.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Advanced Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the question to the member opposite. HappyPad continues to make the opposition unhappy. And the thing about HappyPad is that it is a home sharing program. It is innovative, but it's not new. It's been around forever. What we are asking for all Nova Scotians is to look. If there's an empty room, we have over 30,000 empty rooms across this province. We have over 500 people that have registered with HappyPad that are interested in their rooms. HappyPad and other home sharing programs will actually vet the person that has the house, will actually vet the person that is looking for a place to rent and make a perfect match. It's still there. They're promoting it more and more. We have, I believe the number is now 33 matches. Those 33 people are pretty happy. We'll continue to do things that are innovative and creative. Thank you.
I recognize the Honourable Member of Fairview Clayton Park.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the 2021 PC Party platform, the PC is committed to lowering energy bills and making life more affordable for Nova Scotians. 3 years later, power bills have never been higher. Once again, the Premier is all promise and no progress. Can the Premier tell us why he hasn't reduced energy costs for Nova Scotians?
I recognize the Honourable Member of Natural Resources.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank the member opposite for the question. Congratulations on your position. Quite frankly, I disagree with the statement. Madam Speaker, there's more than just electrical costs that are energy costs to families. This government, in the last 3 years, has invested more than $250 million to energy costs. I'll just speak about a couple of them. Heating assistant rebate, Madam Speaker, $77.6 million to 129,000 families to assist with an energy cost. Your energy rebate program, $144 million that we invested 24-25 to help 450,000 homes. And I got a few more I'll speak about later.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Fairview Clayton Park.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'm glad that the Minister mentions the Heating Assistant Rebates Program, because we have been long advocating for this heating assistance rebate program and an increase in such that would make a real difference in Nova Scotians' lives. But instead, his government has actually decreased that program by 40%. My question is actually not my question. It comes directly from the member for Halifax Atlantic at a previous Public Accounts Committee earlier this year, and I will table that quote. How can you reasonably and ethically decrease the HARP by 40% for people whose money is not going as far as it used to?
I recognize the Honourable Minister for Service Nova Scotia, Cybersecurity and Digital Solutions, Acadian Affairs and Francophonie. This might be the only time I say the whole title.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Listen, facts matter. The facts are that since we took office, we've increased this budget sevenfold, gone from $10 million to $77 million, Madam Speaker. We're supporting almost 3 times the number of households in this province, and the previous Liberal government failed to touch this program. Madam Speaker, we know this program matters so much to Nova Scotians. We look forward to sharing more program details in the weeks ahead. Thank you very much.
I recognize the Honourable Leader of the NDP.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm lucky to represent the area that includes Dartmouth Cove. And Dartmouth Cove is a beautiful trail along the waterfront, which borders a centre for ocean ventures and entrepreneurship. which is home to millions of dollars of government investment, as well as maritime search and rescue operations, all of which, the trail, the neighborhood, the center, would be imperiled by the proposed infill in the pre-Confederation water lot adjacent to that path. The minister said earlier there's no provincial angle. That is inaccurate. In fact, Build Nova Scotia owns a parcel of land over which this developer would require an easement to undertake any dumping operations. Now, Build has publicly stated that they would not entertain an application for that easement until all approvals were granted, federal and CN and municipal. And my question is, now that this developer has acted in such bad faith, blocking that trail, will the minister commit to directing Build to finally and permanently deny the easement? Yeah.
I ask that everybody stay within their minute. 50 seconds. I slipped a little bit today, but I won't be again. I will cut off people if they don't have the question out in time. Yeah, okay. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Member for the question. As the member knows, when those blockades were put up on Build Nova Scotia's property, we acted immediately and asked the contractor who was in there to remove those. If they wouldn't remove them, we would remove them and charge them for the cost of removal. As far as the easement goes, as we stand right now, their application is still in with the federal government, and until we know what they're doing, this is where we stand.
I recognize the Honourable Leader of the NDP.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And so that marks almost 2 years of essentially inaction on this file that is so important because it represents a Wild West approach to infilling. This government is presiding over a building boom. We have a new hospital being built. We have lots of cranes in the sky. The Premier likes to talk about this, and yet we have no plan for the periodic slate that needs to be sequestered. The port will dispose of that slate for a fee, but this leads to people like the developers in question here buying pre-Confederation water lots in the middle of downtown Dartmouth and deciding to turn them into a dump. And so my question is, will this government take a proactive stance against this kind of behavior, prevent this project permanently, and regulate infill and come up with a plan for what we're going to do with the slate?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the question. The thing is that infilling into our water, it comes from a federal government application or regulatory approval from the federal government. It's the federal government's jurisdiction. It is not ours.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Northside Westmount.
Madam Speaker, last year this government made a significant number of Nova Scotians ineligible for the rent subsidy program by reducing or by increasing the income to 30% of gross to 50% of gross income from 30%. Then a couple of weeks ago, they announced they were expanding the program and changing the threshold once again. Since this government came to power, Madam Speaker, the department has changed it from 30% to 50% and now back to 40%. Does the Minister of Housing still think that this program should be called an expansion?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Madam Speaker, as I've said previously, we're working in many different aspects of the housing file. The rent supplement program, we recognize the importance of that. Since we come to government, we've added thousands of more people to the rent sup program. It's gone from, I believe, an $11 million program a year to a $69 million program. We continue to see that program grow. We know we're going to continue to add more people, and we see we make changes as necessary to see the program become more effective, more in line with other programs across Canada.
I I recognize the honourable member for North Side Westmount.
So, Madam Speaker, reading between the lines there, it's not an expansion, it's a reduction in the program. Fewer Nova Scotians who were previously eligible for the program are now ineligible. So, Madam Speaker, families across this province are having a difficult time under this government. Over the last year, the average rental price in Nova Scotia jumped by 17.1%, and I'll table that. Families need relief. Will the minister commit to going back to a 30% income threshold on this very important program?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
So as the members know, and I've said before in the House, Madam Speaker, we have one of the most effective programs in the country. We recently made changes, as a member alludes to, and we have gone from 50% threshold to 40% threshold. That means more Nova Scotians will be eligible. We continue to see the importance of this program in the suite of programs and things that we do across the scope of housing to address the housing crisis.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Clayton Park West.
Madam Speaker, this Premier promised to fix healthcare, but the wait times for mammography screening have gone from 45 days 2 years ago to more than 70 days now. In some parts of the province, the wait time is longer than 5 months, and I can table that as well. It's clear that this Premier is not taking women's health seriously. My question to the Premier: is he willing to commit to invest in contrast-enhanced mammography technology, just like BC, or abbreviated MRI, just like in Ontario, where both can find 4 times more cancer than we do here?
Order. I recognize the Honourable Member or Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the member for the question. So certainly over the summer, as I've committed to do, I did have the opportunity to speak with Nova Scotia Breast Screening Program. We continue to work with the individuals in that program that's led by Dr. Sean Isles. Those are the clinical experts. We know that we have a very effective breast screening program, that our rates are good. We do have a high-risk breast screening program. We want to work with the clinicians. We cannot change clinical pathways on the floor of the legislature, as I've told the members opposite before, but we will continue to listen and work with our clinicians to understand how best to serve women and all Nova Scotians in terms of health care delivery.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Clayton Park West.
Madam Speaker, the Minister of Health recently spoke about staggering deficit that was affecting this government's ability to pay for the healthcare workers. And her government, if her government is worried about cost of healthcare system, there is much better way to cut costs than by investing in early screening and diagnostics for breast cancer. We literally can save millions and avoid putting women through the hell of chemotherapy by expanding breast cancer for Category C and Category D. It has been proven by other provinces. Please, I would like her to, why wouldn't the Department of Health make this change that makes economic sense
Order.
and health
I
sense?
recognize the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the member opposite for the question. At no point have I ever indicated that this is a money issue. This is not a money issue. What we have done is work directly with experts. I am not an expert, and so I work and depend on the experts in our province who have a nationally recognized breast screening program. We will continue to work with them. I will not change clinical pathways on the floor of the legislature, nor should any other politician. But I will continue to keep track of that program, listen to the experts, and understand what resources they require. This is not a money issue.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Cumberland North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Finance. I believe, and many believe,
the greatest threat to all Nova Scotians is the risk of our province becoming an island. The rising sea levels and increased incidents of destructive storms have hastened the timeline of the threat of the flooding of the Chignecto Isthmus. It used to be projected as the year 2100, but now experts say it can happen at any time. While our province, the Minister of Finance, has not budgeted any money for the repair of the dikes, our neighbouring province of New Brunswick and the Minister of Finance, Ernie Steeves, has budgeted at least $750,000. Madam Speaker, my question to the Minister of Finance is, can he tell all Nova Scotians why his government is not making this a priority?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank the honourable member for the question. And we are making this a priority. We made an application to the federal government for DMAF funding, Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Funding, back in July 19th, 2023. We still have not received a response from them. We've also put forth a legal case where we believe the federal government is responsible for this. We saw what the federal government did for the Quebec Bridge. Think about that, $10 billion or $1 billion over 10 years for the same reasons why they should be funding the Chignecto Isthmus. We truly understand the importance of this isthmus. We know it is a safety concern, and we have not stopped the work on this file.
I recognize the honourable member of Cumberland North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Prime Minister was here recently, and I'm wondering if the Minister of Finance or the Minister for Public Works can let us know here in the House, did they initiate a meeting with the Prime Minister to talk about this? I know the words that the government love to use are faster and stronger, but we're not seeing that with the case of the Chignecto Isthmus and the risk of flooding. We're seeing zero work. There's been not one shovelful of dirt moved. Yet we need these dikes repaired yesterday, and experts continue to talk about that. Leaders in the town of Amherst, the town of Sackville, we all know this is a risk to the province. So can the minister please let us know when will this be taken out of the courts and put into this legislature?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And to answer the question, did I meet with Justin Trudeau? No. I did not meet with Justin Trudeau. As the member knows, I did appear at the Senate committee, and I did see her in the background there to support the Senate bill. This is not about taking it out of the court. We believe the federal government should pay for the repairs that are needed to Chignecto Isthmus. But we haven't stopped. And I know you don't always see action there, but there are people that are doing background studies or geotechnical work. They're doing, we have an MOU, we have a project engineer that should be hired within the next couple of days. So work is continuing.
Order. I recognize the honourable member for Halifax-Chignecto.
My question is for the minister responsible for residential tenancies, whose department is surely aware of the Understanding Fixed-Term Lease Use in Nova Scotia report released a couple days ago by Acorn. The report shows that over 99% of those surveyed are on a fixed-term lease because that was the only option offered by their landlord. It also shows that 36% of the tenants in the survey had previously been evicted at the end of a previous fixed-term lease. Only 3 years ago, Madam Speaker, just 6% of tenants, not 36%, reported having been previously evicted. Will the minister finally recognize that fixed-term leases are being used by landlords across the board in Nova Scotia as a way to undermine security of tenure and undercut the rent?
Order. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Service, Nova Scotia.
Madam Speaker, what we do recognize as a government is the solution to the housing crisis is more supply, more places that Nova Scotians can call home. As the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing outlined, our plan is working. We are making unprecedented investments across the province, across the housing spectrum, whether it be for healthcare workers in modular housing, whether it be in student housing, whether it be the first time in 30 years that we're making a new public housing investments, Madam Speaker. So we're focusing, our plan's working, we're not stopping, and there's more work to come. Thank you very much.
Order. I recognize the honourable member for Halifax-Chebucto.
Thanks. Look, the high rate of fixed-term lease evictions has also got a lot to do with why rents are so far out of hand. Of tenants who've been forced to leave their homes in the last 5 years, 84% report that they had to pay a lot more for their new place than they did for their old one. Will the minister recognize that by not limiting the use of fixed-term leases and by excluding new tenancies from the rent cap, the government is in fact incentivizing landlords to evict their tenants, and that this has a lot to do with the fact that actual rents went up 18% last year when the so-called cap is supposed to be just 5%.
Shame. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Service, Nova Scotia.
Madam Speaker, absolutely, we don't want to see anybody displaced from their home, and that's why we're moving forward and actually trying to build more places, Madam Speaker. So we're not going to let the negativity from the NDP get in our way. We recognize that there's a lot of work ahead to do, but we're moving forward, Madam Speaker. As it's been said today in question period, our plan is working, Madam Speaker. So that said, recognizing that there's challenges in the rental market today, yes, there was challenges when the member was in government, and there will be challenges in the next few years, but we are working hard, whether it be in the residential tenancies program, municipal affairs and housing, across government to move forward on the housing crisis in this province.
I recognize the honourable member of Bedford Basin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In the 2021 election, the PC spoke about increasing surgery volumes. And while over the past 5 years, surgeries have increased 2%, our population has actually grown by 10%. And that means surgeries are not keeping pace with population growth. They're actually declining when compared to the population. And now it looks like the Premier is still on track to keep his promise to double our population, but his promise to increase surgery numbers isn't keeping up. When will the growth in surgery volume match or surpass the growth in population?
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the member opposite for the question. So I do want to acknowledge that there has been over a 25% reduction in the surgical wait list since we formed government, and also the number of individuals who are going on the wait list is is higher than the people coming off. So we do see that there are big changes. That's also why when we looked at the Halifax Infirmary project, we took a common sense approach. The other former government, their project was built on declining population, where we saw that Nova Scotia is on the move and the population is increasing. And our capital expansion project in HRM reflects that growth.
I recognize the honourable member for Bedford Basin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That's really interesting because the new Halifax Infirmary project is actually smaller than the square footage is smaller than the one that we had put forward. And if they had just taken the plans that were ready there, they could have already had the thing built and people could be getting the surgeries there. Anybody who has been in a hospital recently knows that nurses are run off the feet. So where the 2,000 are, I don't know, because I can tell you there are not enough nurses in the hospitals working, and I don't know where the minister. We may have registered 2,000 more. I don't know what the heck they're doing because they're not in the hospitals.
I did not hear the question. I will recognize the Minister of Health and Wellness.
So I'll very happily talk a little bit about the healthcare redevelopment program. So one of the things, that project that was announced before by the former government was impossible. There was no way the market could accomplish that. But now we have a plan.
Order. The time allotted for question put by the members is now over. I recognize the Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask that you please call government bills for second reading.
Public bills for second reading.
Would you please call Bill number 455, the Nova Scotia Guard Act?
Bill number 455, the Nova Scotia Guard Act. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Madam Speaker, I move that Bill number 455, an act to establish the Department of Emergency Management and authorize the establishment of the Nova Scotia Guard, be now read a second time. Madam Speaker, I'm very pleased to rise and speak to this important legislation today. Our emergency readiness as a province must reflect the realities of the world we live in today. That means being ready for all types of disasters. There is no question that climate change is causing more frequent and severe wildfires, floods, and other emergencies that threaten the safety of Nova Scotians and the communities we live in. Over the past couple of years, unprecedented wildfires, floods, and hurricanes like Fiona have taken lives and destroyed homes and public infrastructure. Unfortunately, we can expect these extreme weather events going forward. The good news is we have an incredible resource in our people, from everyone from emergency responders to volunteers who show up for their communities. And this legislation is about making sure everyone is well prepared and coordinated when we need them most. Madam Speaker, through this legislation, a new Department of Emergency Management will lead, direct, and support a coordinated response and help meet the immediate and ongoing needs of Nova Scotians when a crisis or disaster occurs. It will include existing emergency response teams from across government and take on expanded responsibilities, including better planning and preparation prior to an emergency, better communication and coordination during an emergency, all leading to faster recovery from an emergency. The new Department of Emergency Management will include all divisions of the current Emergency Management Office, as well as the Public Safety and Field Communication Team and the Business Continuity Team from Service Nova Scotia. Madam Speaker, as part of this legislation, we will also create the Nova Scotia Guard, which will be made up of volunteers from across the province who help their communities during and after emergencies. The Nova Scotia Guard will match volunteers to areas of need based on their skills, interests, and qualifications. This will include everything from providing care and comfort, delivering food and shoveling snow, to operating heavy equipment or assisting with large animal transport, just to name a few possible examples. Madam Speaker, we are at a moment in time when we need to strengthen our approach to emergency management. This means working together to be prepared, ready to respond, and able to help communities as they recover. The fact is, whenever an emergency happens, the first thing Nova Scotians do is step up to help. That's just the blue-noser way. The Nova Scotia Guard will enable us to call those volunteers who are ready to help the moment their communities need support. The official registration portal for the Nova Scotia Guard launched earlier this summer and since then we've received great interest. To date, more than 1,100 Nova Scotians have registered for the Guard, and that number is growing daily. And I want to express my appreciation for every Nova Scotian who has signed up for the Guard. As promised in the spring, we spent the summer consulting with emergency responders, volunteers, communities, and other partners. We heard lots of optimism and received great feedback. That's why, through the legislative process, we will introduce a few important changes to the bill to reflect on what we've learned. We also continue to meet with hundreds of Nova Scotians across the province, including community groups and teams who are already providing emergency response services, like ground search and rescue, volunteer fire departments, the Red Cross, the United Way, and the Salvation Army, to ensure we build strong working relationships with each of them. Mr. Speaker, this legislation captures a new direction for our province, and one that's focused on keeping the people of Nova Scotia safe. At its core, it's built on the feedback we've received after the wildfires and floods last summer and continued through this summer as we traveled the province. Nova Scotians have called for better communication, better coordination, and better volunteer management when it comes to emergencies, and that is exactly what we do. Mr. Speaker, at this moment, I look forward to hearing from my colleagues on all sides on this bill. Thank you.
I recognize the honourable member Cole Harbour, Dartmouth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise today because I've listened, but I'm really still not sure what the Guard is going to accomplish, given the fact that, you know, as a my life as a municipal councillor know the great work that each municipality does with regards to emergency management. And I think I recall the scrum with the Premier when he came up with the guard and said, of course, the legislation would have to be done, so we're here with it. And the public speaking on it was basically, well, we need people to make sandwiches and squares and things like that. So as I stand here, I don't know if the Premier wants me to make date squares or something else. So it's very kind of, but I stood here many times and said the province can lead in emergency management. And to start with a vulnerable persons registry would be a great place to start. But again, we're looking at reinventing the wheel and naming it something else and making it maybe appear to look like it's going to respond in the dire need of times when climate change is going to flood properties. It will do it over and over again. It will flood our coastlines, but hey, we got 14 out of 19 recommendations done for the Coastal Protection Act. I don't see how the coordination of this is going to take place, and maybe sometime the minister will tell me. Because at a time of emergency, you want people leading the charge that know what they're doing. You do not want people with their good intentions coming to help you when they have no expertise on what they are expected to do. And I don't know, I know working with the Nova Scotia Ground Search and Rescue in the past, it's a shame that the Guard and the province doesn't provide funding for such a great organization. They get $3,000 a year. $3,000 a year, and I know, I can tell you personally, when I was on council, I gave district capital to Ground Search and Rescue for them to buy their own equipment. That shouldn't be. It's not the way to go forward in the time of emergencies. There's going to be continual disasters. We've spoken to people in emergency. We've spoken to people who are responding, firefighters, ground search and rescue, like I mentioned. None of them know why this is being brought forward. None of them. And in fact, many of them are actually very upset about it. They feel disrespected, and they don't feel that anybody consulted them on this. So I don't know where it's coming from, but the discussion will continue. And I look forward to having that discussion continue. Thank you.
I recognize the honourable member, Cape Breton Centre, Whitney Pier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I was listening to the minister speak, I was struck again that this government's going to bring in changes to a bill that's already on the table after they did their consultation. Mr. Speaker, bad habits are really hard to break in this legislature. Especially coming from this government, who continuously puts forward bills without doing the fulsome consultation that they must do. I personally would like to see bills come before this legislature that have been well researched, well consulted on, so that these types of changes don't have to continuously come up prior to this going to law amendments. It is becoming quite ridiculous, and it is a very, very bad habit. It needs to be broken, Mr. Speaker. And I have to agree with my colleague on the fact that if you want to have a bill for emergency management, let's talk about vulnerable persons registry to be put into this. That would have been fantastic. A bill that encapsulated all of our ground search and rescues, our fire departments, and all those other emergency organizations that we have in our province, to have them all together in one room and have a document that stated the full responsibilities of those departments and those organizations. That would have been a good use of this bill. So with the increase of the major storms, events across the province, it does make sense to discuss how to best ensure we, as a province, are ready to respond to emergency events moving forward. This is especially the case given what we have been hearing from firefighters, ground search and rescue folks who have been on the front lines of our responses to these events. We've heard that there are critical safety concerns with the Nova Scotia Firefighter School, in part because of a lack of provincial oversight and funding. As a former firefighter explained, you get what you pay for. And unfortunately, I think that's what we're seeing now, end quote. And I'll table that. Likewise, fire departments across the province have reported a lack of funding for requested training, and I'll table that. It's hard to recruit new volunteers, Mr. Speaker, without funding to train them. A better use of this bill would have been, again, to talk money, to talk about training. Because I know in my riding, I have several fire departments, all willfully underfunded, and all of the people that volunteer at these departments work the hardest they possibly can for their communities. Not only do they work within the community, but they open warming stations. They go out to help people with flooded basements. They go out to do what they're actually there for, and that is fires as well as rescue. And yet they're still woefully underfunded. And when it comes time to open the warming centers, and when it comes time to deal with these major storms, there's not much increase in the funding to help them do so. And there are grave concerns being raised by firefighters and ground search and rescue folks that shows that these conversations urgently need to happen. This bill, as I said before, does not create space for these meaningful conversations. This bill put the cart before the horse. The solution was presented before the practical elements were considered. Again, consultation, a word this government needs to learn and put into practice. In fact, the solution was tabled in the legislature last spring before the emergency response crews were even consulted again. Why? Why not consult with these emergency response crews prior to tabling a bill? Was it showmanship? I don't know. With the introduction of this bill last spring, many felt, to quote Deputy Chief Terry Canning, like the province was, quote, jumping into something without consideration of all the ramifications of it, end quote, and I'll table that. Others, such as Ron Jepson, volunteer president of the Eastern Shore Ground Search and Rescue Team, felt the introduction of this bill was a slap in the face. Rather than acknowledging and strengthening the capacity of the important work already being done on the ground, this bill created a pathway to something else, end quote, and I'll table that. As we debate this bill today, we still lack critical details on how this bill will impact existing volunteer forces and what the actual long-term goal of the bill is. Instead, we're looking at reinventing the wheel once again in this legislature, rather than using the resources that we already have. There are a lot of details missing and a lot of relevant stakeholders that we need to hear from, both of which I'm hoping we can accomplish at the upcoming law amendments. And with that, I'll take my seat. Thank you.
I recognize the Honourable Member Halifax Needham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just felt I had to stand up because I'm listening to my colleagues on both ends here, and it struck me because I'm saying to myself, you know, yes, we need to bolster the emergency management services. We need to bolster those operations. There was feedback that was given after the wildfires, after a number of environmental changes that have happened that have had folks to respond. So there's feedback, and they're given that feedback, and they're saying they need better communication, better planning, better coordination, and all divisions should play a role in this, and this is what the minister spoke to. And I'm saying to myself, well, isn't that your job, to make sure that they do this work and to make sure that all of those things, like the feedback that was given by the professionals and the experts, are taken into context and creating something within the department itself, not creating something new, which in turn is what we're seeing here. And then I have a ton of questions because I'm thinking, so if we create another entity, which would be, what is it, the Nova Scotia Guard, what does it do? What is its purpose? When I think of that, if we already are talking about ground search and rescue, our firefighters, all of our other critical people on the ground that are doing this work already, why aren't we funding them and listening to them when they say that they're in need of more training opportunities, or they're in need of, better communications when it comes to things like this? It's really interesting because from my colleague, I'm hearing that they're feeling disrespected, they're not consulted, and we're putting forward things in a rush moment to make it sound good for other people, but not to actually do the right thing that needs to be done through the consultation of the folks that are actually doing the work. So, I also heard the minister speak about Nova Scotians stepping up to help. That is just what we do as Nova Scotians. We step up when we need to, because sometimes the government doesn't do the work they need to do it in a manner that's timely. So we have to do that stuff, right? So I also want to say that, like I said, I have a ton of questions. Number one, we're asking volunteers to respond. Who are those group of folks to respond? I heard from the minister that, 1,100 folks have registered and they're anticipating more. How do you register folks without even passing a bill? That's a question for me. I don't quite understand how that works. And then, as well, then we're going to change the bill before we bring it forward again on third reading. So it's like, should we have done our homework and really kind of dug deep into what it is that we want to put forward before we actually put it forward? So consulting with folks that are on the ground doing this work, connecting with people that are doing this crisis work, the critical work that's happening across the province already, including them in these conversations, getting that feedback, and then as well in bolstering your department to do the work that they're supposed to be doing based on the feedback that you receive. And then funding those folks that are doing the work that is critical and crucial to our province, so that we can actually not have to depend on volunteers and community members to pick up the slack. So those are my questions, and I will be listening in law amendments for folks' feedback. But I feel like this is another way that we're passing the buck on to someone else. We have enough chains of command. I think we need to make sure that the minister's role and the office and the department is the one that's doing that work, because when there's too many cooks in the kitchen, you know what you get: bad food, right? So I'll sit down on that. Thank you.
If I'm to recognize the Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, it will be to close debate on Bill 455. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's with interest I listen to my colleagues across the floor address some of the concerns that they have, and I realize that there's certain things about the bill that are not understood, and I'll just address that briefly. One of the things that we see, and this is a global phenomenon, we see other jurisdictions doing similar things to address this, is the reality of what could be termed spontaneous volunteers. So what happens in a crisis, you have people showing up who want to help. And we appreciate that happens in Nova Scotia. Nova Scotians just want to help. It's the Blue Noser way. It happens in other jurisdictions too, all over the Western world. But in a crisis, it's very difficult to know whether they are capable of doing what they want to do to help. It's hard to know who they are. It's hard to know if it's safe for them to do what we need. For instance, in Fiona, we saw a big need for chainsaw operators. Can someone who just shows up with the chainsaw really operate a chainsaw safely? I can tell you that in my 30-year career as a farmer, the day that I had my chainsaw in my hand was, I knew, the most dangerous day of the year for me on the farm. A chainsaw is an incredibly dangerous tool. And in fact, I have a friend who had passed away, I believe it was 2011, using a chainsaw. So it's not an academic thing. This is a real issue. What the Nova Scotia Guard will enable us to do is have people who know that if there was an issue in their community, they would volunteer. We ask you to sign up beforehand. Tell us what you think you can do, what you're capable of doing. We want to do a criminal record check. Important thing to have. And then on a second tier of that, if you say I can handle a chainsaw or I have first aid or some skill, we want to do some verification or certification of those skills. We're working on that. So that's important. What will the Guard do? What we saw in the last couple years was people who wanted to help. Let me give you an example. So we opened comfort centers, or the municipalities, in fact, open comfort centers. They're managed. What happens is the resources or the volunteers or the people that the municipality have to operate the comfort center are burned out within about 4 or 5 days. You can imagine, it's not easy. Who backfills those people? The Nova Scotia Guard will backfill comfort centers in a moment of need. So this will be an important part of that. In terms of what did we do, we dropped a bill into the legislature last session and said we would spend the summer consulting. We had somewhere, and I don't have the exact number, but certainly somewhere between 40 and 50 different consultations this summer. In fact, our staff worked, a small number of staff worked incredibly hard. I believe, I can confidently say we reached out to every search and rescue and every volunteer firefighter, volunteer or firefighter group in the province, which is over 300, somewhere in the vicinity of 350 different groups. So we reached out in numerous ways, in person, in many communities. So we had extensive consultation. That process of extensive consultation has led to some changes which we will introduce further in this process, in our thinking in how we did that. We listened to our ground search and rescue and our volunteer firefighters. And we have adopted some of the, I think we have arrived at a place where we all kind of, in terms of those consultation process, we're at a place where we understand how this is going forward, and our volunteer firefighters, their ground search and rescue, understand that and are happy with what we're doing. They understand we're not replacing them. The #1 volunteer, just let me make that clear, the #1 volunteer in the province is that volunteer firefighter or that volunteer ground search and rescue who are doing weekly training and doing events, in some cases almost every day, that they're in some of our volunteer firefighters departments, almost every day volunteer firefighters being engaged. And the Nova Scotia Guard is not intended to replace them or duplicate that or even reach that level of intensity, but it's for the next level of intensity down, volunteer who wants to respond but is not ready for that level of commitment. But we know that some people who join the Guard will want to move up to that, and we know from other jurisdictions around the globe that this is the case. And this will be a way to bring more volunteers into our volunteer fire services and our ground search and rescue. We know that is the case. So we look forward to that, and we can already see some of that dynamic happening. We've had a number of people sign up for the Guard, a surprising number, who said they were trained firefighters, but not actually attached to a fire department. We didn't think that number would be big. It's much bigger than we thought it would be. So it's a surprise to us. So we can see the opportunity to say, well, maybe if you're a trained firefighter, rather than join the Guard, maybe you should join one of your local fire department, and here's the contact. Maybe we can make that happen. That's something we're working on. There's still a lot more work to do. We know that when we have a crisis, our first responders of all sorts will be there. But what happens when the crisis goes on for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks? And the Nova Scotia Guard will be able to step in. What happens if the crisis involves moving large animals? We'll have people who have signed up for the Nova Scotia Guard who have that skill. That's a very specialized skill and not something that I would want to take on myself, to move a large animal in distress. But it would be also, in my opinion, a very dangerous moment, and something that you really you need to know what you're doing. We saw last year that we needed, for the first time since 1984, we needed snowmobiles in Cape Breton. The Nova Scotia Guard will have a relationship with the Snowmobile Association of Nova Scotia. We found those snowmobiles last year. Now we'll be able to access them through the Guard. There's many other ways that anybody with any particular skill at all, it may be something we need. So we're encouraging you, whether you can make sandwiches or you have large animal moving skills or any other kind of skill or chainsaw skills, anything that you can imagine we may need. So we know that during the moment of the emergency, it's very hard to manage that. Very hard. It's like somebody shows up and in the moment of an emergency, we have to have a certain amount of groundwork done so we know that you're capable of doing what you say you want to do to help, that we know who you are, that we've done the criminal record check, that all of those things are necessary. It's not only our jurisdiction doing this, this is happening in different jurisdictions. And in fact, we have feedback from the Red Cross that other provinces are looking at what we're doing here. So an enormous amount of work. I just want to assure the members, I realize they don't have a lot of information. I will say also, vulnerable person registries are part of this, so they are in the bill. That's right. Vulnerable person registries are included in this. That's right. So, and I realize the member opposite from Cape Breton Centre, Whitney Pier, didn't know that, but that is the case. So I look forward. I think this is this is groundbreaking. A groundbreaking bill for our province. It's changing the dynamic. Obviously, we've gone through brutal 3 years in emergencies, a brutal 3 years that nobody would wish on anybody. And there's been some very tough moments. This is a response to it. We know that this is a work in progress. Even as we're doing it, we're continuing to learn. We heard back very strongly from volunteer firefighters and search and rescue members about insurance. We've addressed most of those. I believe we've fully addressed those concerns in the program. So I'm very proud of the work that's been done, very proud of the staff. I want to give a shout out to my staff who have absolutely worked their tails off this summer on this. A small number of people, they know who they are. I don't feel I should mention names in the legislature. Maybe I'll have the opportunity to introduce them at a later date, but they have worked very hard on this, and this is people across government, across different government departments have worked hard. Very proud of the work that's been done, and this is something that is changing the dynamic in Nova Scotia on how we respond to emergencies. With that, Madam Speaker, I move second reading of Bill 455.
The motion is for second reading of Bill 455, titled Nova Scotia Guard. Would all those in favor of the motion please say aye? Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried.
Bill 455, an act to establish a Department of Emergency Management and authorize the establishment of a Nova Scotia Guard.
Ordered that this bill be referred to the Standing Committee on Law Amendments. I recognize the Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That concludes government business for the day. I move that the House do now rise to meet again on Friday, September 6th, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Government business will include second reading of bills number 459 and 464.
The motion is that the House rise to meet again on Friday, September 6th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Sorry, I'm supposed to read between the hours of 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Would all those in favor of the motion please say aye? Aye. Contrary-minded? The motion is carried. We stand adjourned until September 6th, 9 a.m. Ordered. Thank you.